You don't fall in love. You get pulled into it like an invisible undertow, stronger than will, deeper than memory, and older than your name. The moment you saw them, something ancient within you, long asleep for decades, suddenly stirred. Not because they were beautiful, not because they were a perfect fit, but because they were right. Right frequency, right timing, right wound. Carl Jung, the master of soul psychology, once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But what few dare to admit is this: not every reaction is gentle like perfume. Some will burn you down, will strip you bare, will unlock doors you sealed shut in childhood and call it love. Perhaps you believe you've met the right person, but maybe you've met the right darkness within yourself mirrored through their eyes. That person was never meant to complete you. They were a soul mirror reflecting the truth you were never incomplete, only never fully seen." Love, as Jung described it, is not merely a feeling, it is a rite of transformation, a sacred ritual your soul in silence and mystery has long prepared. And the one you call destiny is in truth the doorway back to your forgotten fragments. That's why it hurts to be near them. That's why everything seemed perfect yet fell apart. Not because you were wrong, not because they were wrong, but because your soul was orchestrating a process the mind can never grasp, the journey back to the self, your most primal, authentic being. You see, what haunts you isn't that they left. It's that you once touched yourself through them, and now you fear that part of you may be lost forever. In today's video, we'll dive into 5 layers of meaning that Jung left behind. Layers that, if you've ever loved deeply or broken completely, you'll recognize were never random. They were whispers from the deepest layers of your psyche, from the shadow, from the anima, from the unconscious. And if you've ever looked into someone's eyes and softly thought, "I think I've known you before, maybe in another life," then perhaps this video was made precisely for you. Hold on to the ache rising in your chest, for what's to come may not be easy to hear, but it will be a doorway, not into another relationship, but into yourself, the one you've forgotten for far too long. You didn't meet them because you were lonely. You didn't attract them because you were seeking love. They came precisely at the moment when the darkness within you, the part you've kept hidden from the world, whispered, "It's time." Carl Jung called that part the shadow, the psychological shadow. It is the collection of everything we've once rejected about ourselves. Not because it was bad, but because at some point we were taught it was unlovable. The child who was mocked for being angry learned to swallow rage with a smile. The girl who was abandoned for clinging too tightly learned to be strong and independent. The boy who was dismissed for dreaming learned to be silent and practical. The shadow is not a demon, it is pain that has been forgotten. But the soul never forgets. And when the moment of true maturity arrives, not on paper but in consciousness, your soul begins to send out signals into the universe. Not through words, but through emotional frequency. Not through conscious desire, but through the unconscious imprint you carry. So how does the shadow summon a soulmate? You think you chose them, but in truth you were led to them, be the part of you you've never dared to face. A smile that makes you tremble, not because they're perfect, but because deep down you feel unworthy. A gaze that unsettles you, not because they're too warm, but because you've never been seen like that before. A coldness that triggers panic, not because they're cruel, but because your fear of abandonment has never been touched this deeply. Everything you feel toward them is a reflection of you. Jung called this projection, the unconscious act of casting our inner world onto others. We don't love them. We love the part of our soul trying to return to wholeness through them. Maybe you had an absent father, and now you're drawn to people who are distant, mysterious, emotionally unavailable, not because you enjoy suffering, but because a part of you believes, if this one stays, then I must finally be worthy of love. Or maybe you were once wounded by comparisons, and now you love someone successful, brilliant, dazzling, someone who always makes you feel small. Not because you don't love yourself, but because your shadow still believes, if I can be loved by someone like them, maybe I'll finally be enough. Love is not a reward, it is a ritual. And the person you met, one who made your heart race, the one you couldn't walk away from, the one who broke you into pieces, they didn't come to complete you. They came to awaken the part of you that died long ago, to show you that the feeling of unworthiness didn't come from them, it's lived inside you for years. That the panic when ignored isn't their fault, it's your inner child screaming for the comfort it never received. That the arguments, the pain, the emotional storm, they're not just conflict between two people. They're fragments of you crashing into each other as light touches the darkness. This kind of love isn't a fairy tale, it's shadow work. A sacred blood and tears journey where you meet yourself through the one you love most. If you're feeling confused, overwhelmed, shattered by the depth of their impact on, this, you are not alone. You're not broken, you're not weak, you're not wrong for loving this deeply. You are answering the call of your soul. And right now you are standing at the edge between who you used to be and who you truly are. The person you love is a mirror, but what you need to see isn't them. It's you unfiltered, unguarded, unmasked. You don't have to walk through this alone. Leave a comment below. Tell me about the moment you met someone and everything inside you shifted. It doesn't have to make sense. It just has to be real. Maybe you still don't understand what happened. Maybe you're still inside the storm. Say it out loud. You are not the only one. We are building a space not for fairy tales, but for souls who truly want to understand themselves through love. Comment "I saw myself in them" if any part of this feels like your story. And if you're wondering what happens after the shadow is revealed, stay with us. Because in the next part, we'll dive into one of Jung's most powerful concepts, synchronicity, or meaningful coincidence. Why did you meet them exactly when you were breaking inside? Why among millions did only this person bring you to tears? Could it be that your soul already knew and designed every detail? The next part will explore Jung's belief that there are no accidents. You didn't just meet them. You were destined to cross paths. The only question left is, will you have the courage to face the message behind that encounter? Have you ever dreamed of someone only to have them appear in your life days later, as if the dream had been a prophecy? Have you ever thought about someone from the past long forgotten and at that exact moment received a message from them? Or maybe in a moment of confusion and inner chaos, a book fell open to a page that spoke the very answer your soul was aching for. Most people would call these coincidences. Carl Jung did not. Synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence. Jung called it synchronicity when two seemingly unrelated events occur at the same time, yet hold a deeper meaning the rational mind cannot explain. To him, synchronicity was a bridge between the inner and outer worlds, between feelings too deep for words and life events that arrive with perfect timing. A simple example. You're overwhelmed by a deep loneliness, but can't bring yourself to speak about it. That night you dream of a stranger reaching out to you in the dark. The next morning you walk into your usual cafe, there they are, sitting with the exact book you've been trying to find. It's not that they look like the person in your dream. It's that the feeling when you see them is the same. Something inside you exhales. Jung didn't see this as coincidence. He believed that when the conscious mind cannot resolve a profound emotional need, the unconscious begins to speak through symbols, through events. And the universe, or more precisely, the field of energy your soul is woven into, coordinates to send you a message at just the right moment. Synchronicity in love. You didn't meet them by accident. When you meet someone, not at the moment you feel ready for love, but when you feel like you're falling apart, pause and ask yourself, why them? Why now? Because perhaps this was synchronicity. Your soul was signaling it's time to face myself, and the universe responded with a person. That person might be a stranger who looks at you like they've known you for lifetimes, someone who appears right after a vivid, haunting dream, or someone you accidentally lock eyes with in a still moment and your heart remembers something ancient. Jung experienced this throughout his analytical work. Patients would come to him and share stories of eerie coincidences right as they began diving into the unconscious, recurring dreams, ancient symbols, mysterious strangers showing up in the exact moment of emotional crisis. He concluded, when we begin the journey back to our true self, symbols from the unconscious seek manifestation in the physical world. These events are the outer expression of inner transformation. Synchronicity doesn't need you to understand it, only to feel it. It doesn't knock on your door with words. It knocks through emotions, a subtle trembling, a strange familiarity, a moment of déjà vu. You may feel confused, disoriented, skeptical, but if you can be still enough within, you'll recognize you didn't choose when to meet them. Your soul arranged it. And then the question is no longer, are they my soulmate? But rather, am I ready to face the lesson they bring? Love, synchronicity, and the sacred timing of souls. Synchronicity doesn't come loud like thunder. It arrives quietly, like a frequency only the awakened can hear. You can't force it, but you can become attuned to it by listening to subtle emotions, recording your dreams, paying attention to the coincidences that seem to echo your soul. If you're experiencing something like this, leave a comment below. Write "I've felt synchronicity" so others know they're not alone. We are creating a community for souls in the process of awakening. Here you don't need to explain everything. You only need to feel have been seen. And if you're wondering, what do I do when the universe sends someone like that into my life? The answer isn't to chase them or to hold on tightly. The answer lies in the question, what are they awakening in me? And that is the next chapter of the journey, emotional triggers, when they activate the wounds you thought you buried. You will understand why deep connection comes with deep pain, why so many run from their soulmates, and why pain isn't the end but the beginning of the deepest transformation. No one ever tells you this. That loving someone can awaken every buried pain you thought you had left behind. That when your heart opens, so too does the darkness within. You expected love to bring peace, but then you met them and instead of feeling safe, you felt on edge. Instead of feeling whole, you felt empty when they weren't around. Every word, every small gesture suddenly had the power to wound. And so you began to wonder, is this really love or have I fallen into something toxic? Trigger the key that opens the soul. Carl Jung once said, people will do anything no matter how absurd to avoid facing their own soul. And real love is the one force that makes it impossible to avoid ourselves. When you meet someone who makes your heart tremble and simultaneously awakens every old wound, it's not their fault. It is the unconscious being summoned. They're not hurting you. They're triggering what was already within. One moment of their silence might bring back the sting of childhood abandonment. One rejection may spark the fear that you're never enough. One moment of distance may reopen the wound of betrayal you never truly healed. Transference: when you don't love them, you love your memory. Jung called this phenomenon transference, when you unconsciously project emotions, unmet needs, and old wounds onto another. You don't just see them, you see them through the lens of your mother, your father, or the first person who ever broke your heart. The danger is you begin to react to them as if they were someone from your past. You demand reassurance as you once begged your father for presence. You grow angry at their silence as you once did with a mother who didn't listen. You feel jealous not because of the present, but because the wound of betrayal still lingers unresolved. And they may do the same. That's countertransference, when they unconsciously react to you through their old wounds. This is when a relationship becomes an arena of the unconscious. Two souls each carrying their own unhealed pain meet. And instead of loving each other in the now, they begin to reenact the past. How do you know if it's a soulmate or a toxic relationship? This is what confuses many people. Because a toxic bond can feel intense, magnetic, inescapable. But there's a crucial distinction. A true soulmate awakens you, but does not control you. They may stir your pain, but the pain leads to awareness and healing. A toxic relationship manipulates you to retain power. The pain isn't there to heal you, it's there to keep you stuck in fear, dependency, and confusion. So ask yourself, are you still you when you're with them? Can you speak your truth? Or are you always afraid they'll leave? Do you feel seen or slowly erased? A soulmate brings you back to yourself. A toxic partner pulls you further away. True love doesn't avoid the darkness, it walks through it with you. Maybe you're in a relationship that hurts. Maybe you're unsure if they're your soulmate. Maybe you're standing on the edge between love and pain, and you don't know the way forward. Remember this. If that love is forcing you to face yourself, if you're beginning to see parts of you you've long avoided, if you're learning to love yourself through the experience, then perhaps, just perhaps, you're on a true healing path. You don't have to walk it alone. Share your story in the comments. How have emotional triggers shown up in your relationships? Can you see how your reactions were rooted in old pain? Write "I'm learning to love without abandoning myself," so that others know you are walking this path bravely. When you speak your truth, you don't just help yourself. You help thousands who are silently carrying the same pain. This community is here for healing, not judgment, not pressure, just a space where truth is finally allowed to speak. And if you're wondering, what do I do with emotions this overwhelming? The answer isn't to shut down, and it isn't to walk away too soon. The answer is learn to understand yourself in the waves. And that is the next chapter of the journey. Persona: the mask you wear and the one who came to peel it away. You'll understand why some people make you feel utterly seen, why some don't love the face you show the world, but the soul you've been too afraid to touch. We grow up believing love will arrive like a gentle spring, breeze us soft, soothing, bringing us more stability, more happiness, more wholeness. But there's a kind of love that doesn't come to comfort you. It comes to break you, to burn through your illusions, and to resurrect you from the ashes. Carl Jung called it inner alchemy, and that kind of love is not ordinary. It is awakening love, the love of transformation. Ordinary love offers comfort. Soulmate love makes you face yourself. Ordinary love is when you're compatible with someone. You share similar values, rhythms, hobbies. You go on dinners, vacations, laugh together, and find peace. It's beautiful, but it doesn't change you. It allows you to stay who you've always been, a soulmate. You're not compatible. You collide like fire meeting fuel. You feel utterly seen and want to run. You feel loved and more vulnerable than ever. Ordinary love helps you survive. Awakening love requires you to shed your skin. Inner alchemy, why Jung didn't choose roses but fire. Throughout his life, Jung was fascinated by alchemical symbols, not because he believed in turning lead into gold, but because he saw alchemy as a metaphor for soul transformation. In awakening love, the person you meet becomes a chemical catalyst. Their presence doesn't just stir you, it dismantles the old structures within you. Negredo, the first stage of alchemy, is the collapse of everything. You begin to feel lost, disoriented, and the things you once believed no longer make sense. You question yourself. You realize you've lived in a mask for years. You cry from a gentle touch. Your heart shatters because they didn't reply fast enough. But Jung once said, "In all chaos there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order." And so through love, you enter the sacred dissolution of the false self to reach the authentic one. Why does it feel unbearable, yet you can walk away? You're not crazy. You're not weak. You're in the midst of a great internal flood where every mask, every I should be, this I must be, that is being stripped away. Awakening love pulls you into uncharted territory where you begin to see the fears you've spent your life avoiding. The fear of being abandoned, the fear of not being enough, the fear that unless you're perfect, you're unworthy of love. And then you realize they're not the ones hurting you. They're simply shining light on the darkness you buried. Why did they show up at that moment? No sooner, no later. You've met dozens before and none of them activated you like this, because none were summoned by your soul the way this one was. Jung called it synchronicity, meaningful coincidence. And meeting a soulmate is where destiny and depth psychology collide. They didn't come so you could keep them. They came so you could find yourself through them. They are fire, you are wood, and when you touch, your normal life begins to burn. You're in the Negredo stage, don't be afraid. You might be crying every night. You might feel like your life is unraveling. You might not recognize yourself anymore. But you are not alone. Millions across the world are quietly undergoing this same awakening through love. They think they've been rejected, but they've been summoned. They think they loved the wrong person, but they've been given a doorway into the unconscious. Leave a comment below I'm burning, but I know I'm being reborn. Write it not just for yourself, but for those who need a light in their own darkness. Alchemical love isn't easy, but it is sacred. Jung never promised the path to the self would be gentle. He only made one thing clear. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. So if this love is breaking, you know that you are standing in the soul's alchemical workshop, and what will rise is your truest self. Next, we'll explore persona, the social mask you wear, and how your soulmate came to help you take it off. You'll come to understand why you keep performing in relationships, why real love makes you feel completely exposed, and how to love without needing to play a role. You once believed this journey was about them, about the one, about the eyes that made you tremble, about the gaze that made you feel seen for the very first time. But now, after all the trembling, the heartbreak, the confusion, the moments of unraveling, you begin to understand this was never about finding them. It was always about returning to the self, what Carl Jung called the very center of the soul. The self, the final alchemy of individuation. To Jung, the self isn't the same as the ego. The ego is only the visible tip of the iceberg, the surface identity that says, this is who I am, this is what I do. Am I worthy of love? Do I have value? But the self, it is the whole. It is you after you've integrated both your light and shadow. It is you no longer performing, no longer proving, no longer being pulled by old wounds or societal roles. The self is where you stop curating yourself and start simply being. Suri How do you know you've touched the self? After a relationship, these signs begin to appear. You no longer blame them, you thank them. Not because they were right, not because you were wrong, but because you see clearly without them, you would have never uncovered the wound you were so skilled at hiding. You no longer need love to feel whole, but you still open your heart. You no longer seek validation, but you're still open to connection. Not from emptiness, but from overflow. You begin to live truthfully, even if it disappoints others. You stop living to be accepted. You live to be honest with your soul. You stop seeing the world in black and white. You accept contradictions. You can love and let go. You can miss them and release them. You no longer need everything to fit a mold. You trust the flow. You are at peace with yourself. Not a forced silence, but the kind of peace that feels like coming home after a long, exhausting journey. Trimonum. Love doesn't make you perfect. It makes you real. You're no longer the girl who tries to be sweet to be chosen. You're no longer the boy who tries to be strong so they won't leave. You are you, with your light, and the parts you never dared to name. And that Jung called integration. You are no longer the fragmented ego pulled between past and present, between fear and longing. You are whole, a complete circle, a self that no longer needs to run. From this point on, love is no longer about searching, but sharing. You don't need someone to complete you. You invite someone to walk with you because you're already whole enough not to fear being alone. You can love and still be yourself. That is the power of love after awakening. It doesn't bind you, it sets you free. It's time to share your story. If you've gone through a relationship that broke you open, but also grew you into something deeper, leave a comment. I didn't lose them, I found myself. Say it not for praise, but so the thousands watching this know they are not alone, that their pain has meaning, that this path is worth it. The journey doesn't end here. In the next part, we'll explore the sacred symbol of union, the merging of animus and anima, and why these kinds of relationships awaken both your inner masculine and inner feminine. You'll come to understand why you keep attracting the same type of person in love, why some people make you feel like home, even if you've just met, and how love can stop being a place of wounding and become the very space your soul is reborn. Perhaps you once believed that love was meant to make you happy, but now after all the layers of the psyche through Jung's eyes and the countless depths of your being, maybe you're beginning to understand real love doesn't come to make you feel complete. It comes to remind you that you are always whole. It doesn't arrive with comfort, first it arrives with truth. And sometimes truth hurts, but it's in those very aches that you begin to remember the pieces of your soul you once abandoned, the dreams you buried, the voices inside you that you silenced to become more lovable, more acceptable, more safe. True love is not a shelter from fear. It is the force that liberates you from it. Jung once wrote, I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become. And no matter how many times you've broken, how many people you've lost, how many wrong turns you've taken, you still have the power to choose again, to return to yourself, to become the most radiant, unapologetic whole version of you. And if that person, the one you once believed was destiny, has walked away, then maybe they've already fulfilled their role, not to stay, but to guide you back to where you belong with yourself. Take a breath, close your eyes, inhale deeply, and ask yourself, am I living as me, or am I waiting for someone else to give me permission to begin? If the answer shakes, you don't be afraid, because that very moment is where the journey begins. You are not alone. There is a quiet, powerful, sincere community of souls walking this path of awakening. They're not chasing perfection, they're choosing honesty. None of them are flawless, but each is learning to be truthful with their soul. And you, if you've made it this far, perhaps you are one of them too. So leave a comment below, not for me, but for yourself. I met them and am finding my way back to myself. Write it as a promise, as a declaration, as a light on the path you may not fully see yet, but one day you'll be grateful you began. If this video spoke to you, if your heart slowed and flared with every word, subscribe. Not because this is viral, not for the algorithm, but because this is where true souls find one another. This is where we don't just learn how to love, we learn how to come home. Click the bell, not just to get new videos, but as a quiet reminder, there is a journey waiting for you. There is a community ready to receive you, and there is a version of you, your truest self, waiting for your return. We'll see you in the next video, where we'll explore the sacred symbol of the soul, anima, and animus, and why you're repeatedly drawn to the same kind of person in love. Love doesn't end here, it's only beginning. And if you're ready, let your story continue from this moment forward. Are you ready? If so, drop just one word in the comments I've awakened, and I'll meet you there.